Yes.
Hi Sudeshna,
Hey, Akshansh. How are
how are you?
you?
Doing well. How are you?
Good, good, good. So,
Am I
folks,
audible?
yeah, you are loud and clear.
Great stuff.
And folks are telling me that they already have heard about um, community managers as a profession. So, no pressure there.
Which
How
is
are we
good to hear.
feeling? How are we feeling?
Hi Rahel. All good, all good. I think I'm super excited about this. Talking about being a community manager, and then is there any way that we can hear inputs from others in the audience side as well, or is chat the only option here?
Chat is the option.
Chat, nice.
But we generally have quite a good conversation in the chat, and that's what we'll do. We typically keep it like fairly light touch, just talk about your experience. I'll chip in wherever I happen to know a bit, and then people can just ask questions and we'll answer them if we have the answers. Otherwise, we'll send them on Google or some other relevant places.
Sure.
Right. Oh,
Sounds
Vivan
exciting. We
already
already
has a
have questions
question.
coming. Yeah.
Yeah, Vivan will be like, "Oh my God, Akshansh, we need you." Yeah, yeah. Cool.
I think I'm
Maybe
going
we
to answer
should
that
wait till
question,
4.
Vivan, as part of my role. I'll get to that in a bit.
Yeah, let's give people a couple of minutes just because we are early. But how's the day been so far for everyone? How's it been for you, Akshansh?
Oh, I just traveled back. I was in Delhi until late last night. So I flew into Hyderabad and I caught up on a lot of sleep today. So it was relaxing. I had a good, relaxing day. How about you?
That's how we like to do Fridays, right? Relaxing.
I got my weekend kick-started early.
Good, well done. Well, technically, this will be hopefully the last call of my week. So yeah, should be quite nice and relaxed from this point forwards. Though, I mean, to be fair, it's still not work over in London, so I might just have to log in. So yeah, let's
How are
see.
things COVID-wise there?
Um, not
Is it
great.
not great? Oh, that's
Not
sad.
great, but to be honest, I think the edge is a lot reduced because of the jabs, right? And um, wherever you stand on the vax or not, I think
Hmm.
the jabs have helped in controlling the severity of the crisis. Um, People have
That's good.
stopped wearing masks, which is what
That's
you'd expect,
yeah.
which is perfectly fine. Like you can't really expect people to keep wearing masks for like 3 years, right? So yeah,
Yeah.
I get
Similar
it.
things back here in India. And in fact, I just came across a headline about an hour uh, back that the government has now opened up uh, precautionary vaccination doses for 18 plus. So basically, we can get a booster dose. Up till now, it weren't the case that you could just go out and get one. So that's new. That's good stuff. But things in terms of stats, the data that we have for COVID cases, and it's still quite good. It's quite low. Yeah, speaking, we don't have people wearing masks here either. So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah,
something
I
quite
do
good.
remember like I spent the second wave, the India's second wave and the peak and the craziness in India. I was there for like 4 months, and um while we were on our way back, people stopped wearing masks already, and I was like, yeah, there you go. This is not going to last. But anywho, let's yeah, I mean, I'm hoping that we are out of the COVID world very soon and we get to travel a bit. The airline prices are showing the craziness of the time.
They're getting higher back here in India.
They are, yes. We've been trying to book some tickets. Anywho, we are on time. It's 4 o'clock, which is 8:30 India time, and We are back to talking about unconventional careers. And Arpit is asking, what are we going to cover today? And I think it's fair to say, Akshansh, we can talk about your conventional career, but let's talk more about your unconventional career as a community manager. So, Akshansh, tell me, what do you do?
All right, so I'll speak of the conventional part real quick. I'm a little over 5.5 years experienced in the consulting industry. Been working at CS Associates as a strategic consultant, and that's my conventional side. But speaking of the unconventional career, the reason why we're all here and speaking about community manager, I play an active role on Fishbowl, the app where professionals come in and drive conversations anonymously, and I help drive the Consulting India Bowl, which is about 400,000 people strong now. So we've got a really, really big community there. I've been contributing to the community for about a little over a year, close to a year. I started exactly, I think it was in March or April last year. And since we kicked it off at about 80 or 70,000 people, today we're 400,000 people strong, so which is a really, really big number. And
Mm,
my role as a community manager there at Fishbowl is, help drive conversations, help drive content, help build a community together and create. Because the app or the product here, Fishbowl, is about anonymous conversation. The main intention is to drive meaningful things, meaningful thoughts, things that are not publicly available, conversations about work life, salaries, growth trajectories, and a lot. So there's a lot going on in there. But that's definitely been a really exciting role for me. This is something new for me. It's been only a year. I hadn't done any of this before. So I'm learning as I go, but something really exciting and fun to be doing.
amazing. So, what is it that a community manager does, Akshansh? What is your role as a community manager?
hmm Yeah. So as a community manager, so basically what I'm more like, it's called the community leader at Fishbowl, and you could also call it as the community manager. Depends on where it is, what it's all about. But my role is to basically keep the community driven as a knit pack team together. I try and drive conversations. I help recognize opportunities, help the group build content. So for example, if we talk about the bold consulting India, it's basically for aspiring or people that are already into consulting, the consulting industry in the country. And we help drive conversations which could be about how to crack into a consulting career, or what sort of work is it that we do, what's the impact, and stuff like that. So it's all about driving conversations there. But my big role, why do they even need me? So they need me to kind of moderate those conversations. So there's streamlined content coming up. It's not all over the place. And what I do is, as a representative of Consulting India, and also as a user of the application Fishbowl, I basically help connect the dots between the audience, the customer base, and the corporate, which is the Fishbowl in this case. So I help them understand where is it that we're lagging, what sort of content that we need to come up with. Are there any UI, UX changes that we can afford to make the experience more pleasant? So at the end of the day, I'm also a user, just like any other person. But at the same time, I have that little hearsay where I'm connected with Fishbowl, people at Fishbowl, the technical team, the product team at Fishbowl, where I provide them insights and updates and feedback on how the product can get better with time, so that we're able to drive more engagement on the application through our audience of 400,000 people.
Amazing. And we'll come to the questions in a minute, but do you want to tell me a bit more about how did you land this gig as a community manager? Because this is not your full-time thing. This is something that you had been doing on the side. and then now you'll play a more active role in the
Hmm.
fishbowl community. So how did you
Yeah.
land this?
So it wasn't as you know straightforward. It, the opportunity came up to me. I didn't go hunt for it. So I was really, really active on Fishbowl. Driving those conversations, providing meaningful inputs. And so Fishbowl is all about questions, comments, posts. So I would always go and enthusiastically answer a lot of them, whatever I knew, whatever I could impart my half. Knowledge or whatever I had about those topics. So I'd go provide answers, inputs, engage with people, and not just post for the sake of it. I try to drive content and try to drive meaningful. I had a lot of questions when I was not just the person who provided answers, but I would put up a lot of questions as well, a lot of posts. So somehow Fishbowl tracked my engagement, and my engagement was really high on the application, and they reached out to me and said the Consulting India Bowl is growing in itself, and we need some enthusiastic people somewhat closer on the lines of what you're already doing. Would you be interested in this opportunity? And I said, why not? And the biggest reason to why I did it is because I've always been passionate about people. This is something that I tell everyone, if you being a community manager is just not a role. Community leader, manager, whatever. Whenever there's people involved, it's not just picking up a job description and doing it. You've got to be passionate about the community that you're doing it for, the people. You've got to be able to connect, speak up for them, or bring them all together to this specific topic. So it's not just scattered all over. Because if I put 100 people in a room, it's going to be noise. But you got
Mm,
to ensure that you drive streamlined content. You try and help them achieve what they want to as that group. So I always had that passion for people. I still do, and it makes me happy. I had all of that. I was doing that on Fishbowl, and these guys reach out to me and say, "Would you be interested in doing XYZ on this bowl?" And they had some things. I told them, how would it be any different? So I get a little, above and beyond insights and features on the bowl, on the application itself, so that I can drive the engagement better. But yeah, in short, I did not go hunt for the opportunity. It came to me.
got it. But just to say here that community managers, I mean, it's a great thing that Akshansh got this opportunity because he was an engaged member of the community. But actually, if you are a people's person and you enjoy doing this sort of thing, there are full-time gigs out there, part-time gigs out there as community managers. I mean, I don't want to say this too fast, but I myself might need a community manager at some point. I know that a lot of my entrepreneur friends hire for community managers in Money 2020. So that is where I work in my full time corporate job. We have a community manager who will engage with our fintech community across the world. So it is a valid role that if you do like the industry, so you have to like the industry, otherwise
Yeah,
it's kind of a bit like you keep on talking about fintech but you are not really interested in fintech. It becomes a
I agree.
bit monotonous. But also the love for people, and I think
Yep.
people can come and start looking for those jobs, and no one's talking about these jobs, which is why I say it's a bit unconventional. No one's talking about it, but from where I am sitting, I'm seeing that this role is going to become stronger and stronger and stronger in the next few years, because ultimately business communities are going online.
Yeah.
400 people in a room is noise. 400,000 people on a forum is, I don't even know what that is. So as these platforms go bigger and bigger, as these businesses grow bigger and bigger, I think the role is going to increase a lot in the number of roles we see and also the
Yeah.
breadth of these roles and how they work together with each other. So, Akshansh, you mentioned people. In terms of personalities, what do you think these managers need to be? I have a few because, funnily enough, we were chatting, Akshansh, and then I was reading through some stuff for my business, and there was this role like, oh, by the way, community managers need to have this. And I was like, what a bloody coincidence that, we had literally been talking about this, and there it comes up again. And yeah, do you want to talk a bit about the personality types? Because I think you
Yeah.
agreed on what I said. Yeah.
I do. And in fact, before I get to this question, this little part that I want to touch upon, which is in a way an answer to this as well, is passion. You spoke of passion, that you got to be passionate about the community that you're working for. So this happened with me. I've been leading the Consulting India Bowl for a little over a year now. Fishbowl reached out to me and said, "We're launching another community, and because you've been there for so long, why don't you come and help us?" And the community was somewhat related to technology. And I can't relate stuff to technology because I'm a strategy consultant. I can do go to market strategies and things like that. But you talk to me about Java, cloud, Azure, I can't relate to that stuff. So I was a bit hesitant at first, but I'm like, let's give it a try. Because this role is new to me. I didn't know what the guardrails were as such. Not that there are any, but I went and tried it for the technology group. 2 weeks down the line, I couldn't impart that same enthusiasm for it as I did for Consulting India because I couldn't relate to it. When I couldn't relate to it, it felt more like a burden on me because I'm like, how do I drive this engagement when I can't comprehend half the stuff that's here? So I couldn't relate to it, I couldn't understand, and therefore, hence the low passion, the zero, not the zero, but low passion for it. So the turnaround time wasn't that great. So it's really important that we are passionate about the community or the product or the set of people that we're working with. So passion is really an important characteristic. The second one, now going back to your question on, what does a community manager look like or a leader look like? So there are no clear personality traits, but I think more or less it sums up that you've got to be. I don't know. I don't want to bias this here, but I call myself as a really really strong extrovert, right? It's not just about me; it's everything else except me. I kind of gained that, you know, recognition or whatever through the other people that I'm helping. So you've got to be really passionate about the people around you. There's going to be a lot of ups and downs. Like leading that 400,000 goal isn't as easy. It's not streamlined. There are literally random questions that come up. There's a lot of trolling happening. There's always this noise element that's consistent. So I, as a person, I get irritated with it. I really get fed up. I'm like, I can't do this anymore. But I've got to keep myself calm and say because it's a byproduct. It's always going to be there. You've got to figure out a streamlined way on how do you fix it or how do you deal with it. So on the platform that I work with is you can kind of report such posts, tell them what's wrong with it. So that's one way of dealing with that. And the other part is about, you know, actually not just going through something and getting irritated, but kind of answering to it. So there's a lot of extrovert nature that you've got to have. You've got to be able to take out time above and beyond your overall life and day to be able to actually connect. There needs to be a connect. Passion, extrovert, connecting with the people is really, really, really important. If you can't do that, you might as well land up the opportunity, but you won't be able to do justice with it. You won't see results coming out because results are, measurable for a community leader. I mean, anyone can come out there and say, "Oh, this place is a mess," whereas the other person, like, "Oh, everything's so great. There's a spot for these set of people. There's a spot for these set of people." So the way that you're actually guiding the group or leading it, you'll eventually get to know. So there's like continuous feedback coming at you.
Got it. Yeah, I definitely think that the extroverted personality is a, I mean, can an introvert do it? Absolutely, but I think, yeah, you genuinely need to get that buzz from people. As an introvert, I mean, that is one of the reasons, honestly, if I try doing too much of that community management, I get burned out really, really quick because it takes away a lot of energy from me. But
Hmm.
whereas for you, I think you feed from that energy, and that's a
Oh, I
really,
love it.
yeah, you love it, you love it. I can hear it in your in your speak. So, and also the other thing that you mentioned was quite interesting about, it's not a job for the sake of a job. And if I may go on a slight tangent here, I think when in general we think about customer support, we think about these random places where we pick up the phone, we call, it's not really great paid, it's just something that someone on the other side of a business process operations is doing. Sometimes it'll be a chatbot and whatever. But actually, a good, and this is one of my pet things, right? I think a business is known by good customer service. If you provide good customer service, that is the best marketing that you will do.
Correct.
And customer service is a bit similar to community management in that you always are connecting to the customer, you are being a voice for the customer. And similarly, I think with even community management, you're like voice of the user per se, or voice of the community. So, and also the other way, like moderating and curating those conversations. um
Just quick point here. I agree with your analogy of relating it with the customer service individual. It is true to an extent, but I kind of relate more with the hospitality industry. Why I say that, as a customer, when you walk into a hotel, you want to be treated right. You feel good when the person at the desk greets you, is asking you about your day, is helping you solve your queries, figuring out the best optimal solution for you, and getting you on your way up and running. So the community leader is more like that. You've got to treat people right. You're going to get a lot of noise. There are arrogant, angry customers that walk up to you, but you can't reciprocate the same behavior, because if you do, you're not fixing it. You're kind of, carrying it up
Activating
ahead.
it. Yeah.
So whenever I think of it, I just me, just a me thing. I relate it to the hotel industry or the, airline industry, where there's so much of ruckus happening. There's so big of a volume, but you've always got to keep that smiling face on and treat people right.
Yeah, no, I think you are absolutely spot on. And I definitely, like, when I think of like the best customer service I have had, or so, I definitely goes back to that hospitality industry. And one of my favorite things to do is to find how great hotels and restaurants, and they think through that entire process, the meticulous attention to detail, and curating that customer experience. And that's physical, right? Like,
Yeah.
on the online world it's a bit different, on the offline world, like in the physical world, it's a bit different. And I always am in awe of how much thought actually goes into curating those experiences. And I don't think we think about this very often. I'll be honest, I hadn't thought about this very often, but only when I started working for Money 2020, where, Money 2020 hosts the biggest events, the fintech events in the world. And I had always been going to conferences. I never ever thought, who are the people who are putting this together? But actually, when I
Hmm.
flipped it around, I started seeing, my God, like the amount of thought and care and preparation that goes behind the scenes to produce something like this is just phenomenal. And like, how was I so blind to all of this? And it's a create, like, if anyone here is a creative, a bit more non-techie, but really likes to work with people, I think this sort of space is very exciting for them.
I agree. And speaking of conferences, before I got into this role, I actually hosted two different conferences, arranging all the logistics, content, getting people in and out of there. So that definitely contributed to my mindset, I guess.
That is so, oh, I did not know that. That is so interesting. And yeah, I can now see the synergies. I need to talk to you more about all of that later. That's for another time. I mean, on the last of this series, I have Monique coming in to chat. I don't know, this is a bit of a spoiler. So Monique used to be our head of US event, basically the VP of our US show. She's recently joined TED and she runs the TED conference now. She's coming on the last one to talk a lot more about all of this sort of the world. So we'll be getting there. But in the meanwhile, Akshansh, I think we should try and answer some of these questions. Should we start with Vivans? How do you
All
drive
right.
more engagement
How do I drive more engagement on online
on?
communities?
Yeah.
hmm So the product or the community that I work with is all online. There's no offline element to it. So I think that should help answer here. But to drive engagement is, getting people to relate with the content. If I get 100 people in a room and I start talking about something which is only relevant for 10 of them, you're not going to drive engagement because you need to be conscious of the masses in there, the number of people in there. So the type of conversations, the type of content, or the type of discussions that you have, it needs to be able to be, it needs to have people relate to it. So my biggest challenge in on Fishbowl is putting up content that people can actually relate to. If I go speak about, say, consulting company X did this in their quarterly announcement, it's not going to help a lot until and unless people are actually interested in that organization. But on the contrary, if I go talk about consulting companies this quarter have been reporting XYZ things, so people are going to be interested. Oh, this is what's happening in the industry because that's the reason that they're on that bowl or that platform for. So the best way to drive engagement is put up content that's relatable to the masses and not just a subgroup or individuals. And that's one thing. Another way is once you've got that running, you've got content, make sure that it's not just a one-sided street. So don't just put up things and ignore or let go of it. Follow up. How's conversation coming along on that? Are there people that have questions that have, for example, right now we're doing this conversation right now. It's a live chat. We are taking out the time to answer questions that are on the chat screen. This is driving engagement. If we don't do this, you might as well not be interested because you're not getting to answer questions. So cater to those small patches, cater to the bigger community, drive engagement through those different means. And I think that should help you drive engagement. But if there's anything specific that you're looking for, let me know, hit up in the chat screen and I can answer. But hope that helps, Vivan.
Awesome. While Vivan comes back, can I ask you a chance for anyone who's looking to do this as a part-time thing, just to, test out waters? What sort of time commitment are we talking about? Like, how long does it take for you to do something like this for a 400,000 people community?
Okay, yeah, so because my community is online, it's all virtual. There's never going to be a face to it until unless we do some event in the near future. Uh, it's at the reach of my palm. I pick up my phone. How and when do I do it? I don't take out time for it. I actually just plug it in whenever I have time available. For example, I'm at the breakfast table. I'm the one who's usually getting up late in the morning and having breakfast alone with nothing to do on the table. I start going through that. So I take out those little time, and overall, I'm not spending more than like an hour and a half, 90 minutes or so,
Mm-hmm.
max to max, 120 minutes on the application. So that kind of justifies, hopefully I've been doing a decent job, but that kind of takes care of my role in it. So
Mm,
it's for mine, for me, I'm also doing it because I love doing it. So I have that traction of coming back
mm.
again and again. But I think if it's a part-time thing and it's online, it's virtual, it shouldn't take more than 2 hours of your time. Unless, there's a brand new community, you've got to drive from scratch, you're following each and every post. When the community on Fishbowl Consulting India was brand new, I mean, we started off with 70, 80K people in itself. So that was overwhelming already. But now that there are 400,000 individuals and above, a lot of things are on autopilot. I don't need to go in and poke everything around. And just so that we're clear, I am not the only community leader for that board. We've got about 3 to 4 different individuals. So if I'm not there, someone else is there. So we don't coordinate as such, but it's like a thing, it's a synchronization thing that's going on.
That's awesome. Probably a good point to go to. How did you grow the bowl to 400,000?
How did we grow the bowl? That's a very, very good question, and I'm going to have to kind of my answer is going to be really, really broad. There wasn't any specific thing that we did except drive engagement, because what happens is it's word of mouth.
Mm,
I came across a really interesting. So when we kicked it off, there was this one post that went viral, crazy. It kept coming back. We had like 2,000, 3,000 different comments come in, and it was about salaries. It was about salaries. What are people being paid at different levels of years of experience at different organizations? And people came in, they provided their inputs. Some people cross questioned, how did you get to this? You climbed up so fast, you're a little behind. The community was helping each other. So even individuals that were not on that platform got to know about that post, because it's like me telling a friend, hey, that XYZ company is paying $200,000 for this designation. Were you even aware? Is like, where did he get that? Because it's not a publicly available information. And they said it's on Fishbowl. Let me share the link. People register, people join. So word of mouth was a really, really big thing for us on Consulting India. That word of mouth was an output of our continuous engagement that we built upon in the bowl. So we didn't leave it as is. We put in interesting content. Now we're trying to come up with different things, host similar sessions like these, live sessions, get people to come in and join that even further. And then now there's another element to Fishbowl. It's acquired by Glassdoor. There are different features. People get to learn about it on their website. So it's like an omni-channel marketing that happens. You don't really need to put in efforts every time. There's a lot of word of mouth that takes place, and people come in. Once you've got people, you've got to retain them. Just ensure that they don't leave, because if they
yeah.
do, then there's no point.
Yeah, though I agree. I think Fishbowl's marketing journey has been super interesting to me as well. Um, they pretty much, in my mind, they pretty much grew out of the pandemic. They used to go with these influencers, the typical meme creators, and they drove a lot of people and traffic to the app from there, and then obviously like you keep them engaged. I hope Akshansh is back now.
I'm back.
There he is. Yeah. I,
Back,
I
back.
was
Not
I
a bad
was just yeah, I was just telling the folks that, um yeah, basically how Fishbowl grew, and then in the last few months it was acquired by Glassdoor, and then obviously Glassdoor flashes things from Fishbowl onto the Glassdoor website that drives
right.
traffic as well. And then their social media, I love their social media as well. Like they pick out quite pertinent things that are very relatable. And because obviously these are real people having real conversations with the anonymity, you have like people relating to it that much as well. So they go quite crazy on like the social channels like Instagram, for example. So I
Yeah,
think it's a multi-pronged marketing approach that they had done. But
I like it
yeah.
how Fishbowl takes a controversial question, posts it on their Instagram stories, and says swipe up to because people are curious. What happened after this? When you
Mm,
swipe up, you're basically joining the platform and joining that poll to get access, right? So
yeah,
there's multiple ways of growing that community.
yeah, yeah, for sure. Um, should we go to Tarun next? How do you start your career as a community manager, and what sort of skills should he start gathering? I mean, you touched a bit on that. Do you have anything more to add?
Um, so I'll be really honest. I'm not a full-time community manager. This Fishbowl has been my first stint. But I'll tell you something that has definitely helped me uh, is I host a lot of events. Like beyond doing this, I love hosting friends, people. I've done a lot of corporate events. I've done a lot of social events. Done a lot of dinner events at different hotels. Gathering people under one roof is my kind of thing. You give me a topic, why do you want to do it, and I'll figure out the logistics. So I always had that passion. So figuring that out, that you want to lead, become that leader, and drive people towards one common goal should help you get started. Now, talking about a community manager, I now things are changing. This wasn't even a career option speaking 3 4 years back. Now things have picked up pace. There are different communities that need these sort of people. So use social media to your best, flaunt what you're doing, talk about what you've done, and I think the right opportunities would come knocking at you. And then as we're going with time, there's a lot of opportunities that are available that you can apply to. So you've got to make sure that you've done some sort of work right now. I see another question here from Hardik, who's a third year college student. He says that he's done quite some good work in communities, and I'm sure he's got a lot to talk about all of that. So that's his background work. That's going to help him talk and convince others that he can actually lead groups, lead communities, and that adds to your credibility. So because all of this is really brand new, uh, there's another question from Rahil as well. What kind of technical skills? Speaking of skills, you don't need technical skills. You need people skills. People skills is like the biggest thing that you want to do about any community. For example, in India, we've got these societies, housing societies. There's a RWA group called the Residential Welfare Association, and then people are trying to elect themselves as presidents, vice presidents. It's community work, right? So they're like these community managers. You've got to have those people skills. You want to be able to do things for others, drive, focus, engagement, and yeah. I hope I'm going to pass this on to you, Sudeshna, but I think you're more aware of the new types of opportunities that are coming up in the market on how people can pick up their skills and apply them there.
Yeah, sure. And I think you are quite right in that, Akshansh. Just be curious about people. I think, why are people here? What is the common goal that they are all trying to achieve? And going back to what we mentioned earlier on, does this industry even excite me? So again, going back to my events example, we host events, so I know quite a lot of events folks, and they sometimes fall into it. Like all careers, I think when you are just wanting to make money and just get that head start, you just don't care about, does this really interest me? And you go into it, and then before you know, you've spent like 10, 15, 20 years in it. And sometimes you do really fall in love with it after 10, 15 years, or you end up not liking it at all. And I think if you went into it a bit more mindfully, like Akshansh said, that, tech is not probably a place where he wants to become the community manager, right? Uh, so you need to feel it out for yourself as well, like what sort of industry are we talking about? If you want to become a tech or a fintech community manager, maybe you do need some of those technical skills, but alongside you do also need the um, people skills, because the people skills are like a non-negotiable, I think, what we are saying in this role. um, but yeah, you probably do need the technical skills the more technical communities you manage become. But also you don't need to be the person who's sort of writing 5,000 lines of code, because that's not the technical piece that you will be managing in the community. You'll be aware of, okay, these are the topics that people talk about. If you are curious, you go read up a bit on that and so on, just to have like, conversations that are not like wildly wrong or off topic. Um, in our like wherever I have seen community managers work well have been either they bring different communities together. So um, they'll be perhaps hanging out sometimes on Slack groups, sometimes on Fishbowl, sometimes on some other community, Clubhouse, some conference, and then bringing together this community together into one group. So Facebook groups, incredibly popular, sometimes LinkedIn groups, incredibly popular. Um, Basically, hosting these people together in one place and making those conversations happen. And you're right, like as you grow, you have more people join in. The conversations anyway tend to become quite more self-sustaining, organic, but also you have to keep moderating. So um, yeah, it could be quite a fun job for the right person. I'm definitely not cut out to be a community manager, but I can see immense value in the role. So yeah, that's what I'd have to say. And if some of you actually want to try out this on the side, or like um, even get it onto your CV, try working with some of these entrepreneurs and asking them if you could do something for them for, maybe for free, maybe for like whatever, just to get some experience on your CV, then you can charge for it, and so on. So there are a lot of startups in the space, a lot of new businesses coming up.
It'll be
Yeah.
a quick thing to add here. I'll be very honest about this. Now, community manager, community leader, any sort of community role, you're not going to sit there, wait for a LinkedIn post, and click on apply to job.
I
It's
love
never
that.
happening.
Yeah.
If you're waiting for that, uh, the track isn't right. It's not. It might work out, but would it be sustainable? My bets are not really. So if you're passionate enough about people wanting to connect, you're gonna go hunt for that opportunity. If there's someone that steps out of this conversation today and goes on LinkedIn and starts searching words, phrases like community, community leader, managers, start reading that relevant content. Start understanding what an existing person is already doing. Follow that industry, the type of product it is, work it out, relate yourself, immerse yourself into that first. And there'll be a calling that you'll get that you're kind of ready to do this even further. For example, for me at Fishbowl, I was just an audience. I had immersed myself so bad that they came out and said, you're doing a great job, whatever you're doing, but we need you to kind of step up and moderate this group, not just be an individual in it. So it's never a job. It's not like a thing that you're going to go on some website and apply for. You'll know that it's kind of coming to you or you're going towards it. you'll start relating to that group of people or topics or things that you want to get into.
I love that. Yes, like so much there in being proactive. And as a community manager, that's probably the best thing that you can do. Like be proactive and show up rather than hope and pray that the job will come to you, because these sort of jobs are probably never even advertised. Um,
It's organic.
it is. And like I said, like I know a lot of my entrepreneur friends have over the years hired community managers, and I don't and I'm on their email lists, and they send emails around for hiring as well. I don't remember ever having seen a community manager um, job posting, though I definitely know a lot of them. Like yeah, those communities wouldn't be the way they are if not for the community managers. So I definitely find a lot of value in that. So
Yeah.
yeah,
In short, I think we're a bit behind on making this like a job thing out there in the market. And right now, it's going to be very much organically driven. But if you want to be part of this while it's growing, like immerse yourself, figure out that community, that those set of people or topic, and contribute. And hopefully, if you're passionate enough and you have that engagement, that enthusiasm, you figure out a way to go up there and lead that group. It could be even as simple as starting your own group. Don't wait to be handed over a responsibility. Drive a group, create one, drive content, get people to join and stick back. Because, I mean, don't just get people to join. Don't be sending out invite links, spamming all over LinkedIn, WhatsApp, Instagram. Whenever you get people, make sure that they stay back.
yeah.
There's a question from Hardik that says, is community management and DevRel same? I'm not sure what DevRel is here. Any thoughts, Krishna?
I don't know what DevRel is, Hardik. If you could explain that a bit more, but I have heard about a couple of rules which are slightly similar. One is of technology evangelist, developer relations. Okay, got it. Similar-ish. A community manager would probably be more on bringing whole communities together, developer relationships, um, probably very similar. I'm thinking in my head about another one called developer advocates. So they pretty much will be advocating for a particular software suite or technology that their firm is representing, and take that out into the market and talk a lot about that and get developers on board with that. So yeah, developers. So Nishant immediately talks about developer advocates, and yeah, that's what typically dev advocates would do. Like, use my thing, not in like because it's better, but because in a more nuanced way, if you are trying to solve this, let's do that instead. This is how this solution fits in, and you have to be more technical in that space than yeah, than a community leader would.
I'm so bad with tech that I couldn't relate to these terminologies until you started speaking about them, Sadeshna. But of the advocates, so I didn't do any of developer advocate or stuff. I did something else advocate. I played an advocate role as well. It was for a product within my organization, and we were trying to. The product was there, the design was there. We were trying to get it out there in the masses of 10,000 plus employees, and so they came up with this role called product name advocate, and my job was to get spread awareness, spread engagement, the use cases about that product to employees in India. We had about 7,500 or 8,000 employees in India at that time. And I was at POC. I was branded as that point of contact. You've got issues, you've got suggestions, feedback. Go speak to this guy, and he'll help connect the dots. So in that role, I also went in these, different podiums, different platforms. If there's a summit, there's a random office connect or something, I would go feature for this quick 5 minutes and create engagement, or create that inspiration for that product. So I was the one who advocated it because I used it for about 2 weeks, understood the ins and outs, what goes behind, what goes in front of it, and spoke. So that's another sort of similar role to what community managers do. It's just another way of looking at it.
Yeah. Though I feel like if I'm thinking about this aloud, what comes to my mind is actually perhaps even for both of those, you do have the product that you are sort of the spokesperson for,
Advocating
whether
for. Yeah.
whether that's a developer relationships or developer advocate, or whether you are a community manager, you are basically handling that community for the sake of the community. So I have to say, I think for community management and community leadership, you are taking in what is coming from the community. You should be doing that technically, even within the developer advocacy and relationships roles as well. But because it has a tech component to it, you sort of have a bit more rigidity perhaps around how far you can go in taking feedback because of what is possible within the technical architecture or not. I don't know. I'm not that technical, so I wouldn't even attempt that. But yeah, it could be quite an interesting role for someone who loves tech but is not technical to the point that they want to write code, but is also a people's person. So quite an interesting role, if I'm honest.
Yep, I agree. I think there's a question from Nishant. He says, for a junior level experienced person. Hmm. Uh, so, Nishant, you've laid out about two, three different options or names, but I'm just going to stop on the first half of it. I think more than your experience in community management, it's about how aware you are. There could be an individual who's younger than you that knows a lot more about the community than you do. I'm leading this group of Consulting India, and I am definitely not the most experienced person out there. There are partners, there are principals that know much more about consulting than I do, but they're not that community leader or that manager out there. So it's basically how well aware and immersed you are in that community. And I think those are just three different ways of looking at it on what the community has to offer.
Yeah, and what I would say, and maybe I'll give a slightly different spin on um, this question. So, Nishant, if you are asking for as a junior level person, like someone who's fresh out of university, trying to get into community management, what path could you select and what might be the easier one? I would probably say go with the one where your expertise, your education lies. So, for example, I was speaking to one of these guys at Data Camp, and they have a data evangelist, and um, he did his master's in data science and went on to become the data evangelist for Data Camp. So it's a very similar sort of role. It played out well into his technical skills, but he's not like so technical that he's running Google Research Labs. But he brought in his, and I think he had done a marketing degree before, don't remember. But yeah, so he sort of put the two and two together and came up with a role that is quite unique and creative, and not many people like, and this is where I start talking about, I keep talking about combine your different skill sets. And guess how many people would apply for a job like a data evangelist? Probably not so many, because how many people are with like love marketing and data and public speaking and community management all at once? Probably not that many. And I think, yeah, start with where your experience lies and then branch out into relevant similar fields. Also, what you like to learn about as well, because whether you like it or not, you'll suddenly become an expert in whatever this community is talking about. So,
I agree.
yeah. Cool. Any more questions, folks? This has been amazing. I think just to bring these new sorts of rules to the forefront is quite satisfying to say that, there are other things that you can do outside tech and medicine and law and accounting. I mean, obviously,
This
those
is
will be the classic. And yeah. Kanchan asks, as a beginner, what do we expect as salary? I don't know, Akshansh, if you have any numbers.
I don't right now. It's not a well recognized role yet. It's about contributing. The role is about contribution to the people, the group. So different people could do it different ways, but there's no number. Sorry, can't help there.
Right.
There
So,
could be some monetization, but that's going to be a case by case scenario. It depends on how eager the organization or the people that run that community are. So if there's a community that is really, really big and they want you to drive engagement, they might as well monetize you in some way and say, get me this much engagement and I'll pay you XYZ. So it's like a target based approach. So there's no flat salary that you're going to gain out of it. You deliver results and they might as well monetize for it.
yeah, I think that's right. I mean, to be honest, I wouldn't know the salaries of the community managers within Money 2020, so I can't really comment on that. I know that they're like, if you probably ask on Fishbowl or Glassdoor, you probably might get an answer. Equally, as a newbie in the industry, what do you ask? I think if you can show them the value that you are bringing by bringing the community together, by driving engagement and getting to a benefit, a direct benefit that the firm or the company has in giving you that role, and you are asking for a part of that, I think that'll be the most fair approach to get to a salary. Cool, 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 cool. Nishant has another question. I just thought, how about we start with community manager role, add up the technology we are interested in, which when added to community management can end up making us a DevRel. And when one masters the technology, he can apply for being a dev advocate. Perhaps a way to do that. There is no one right path. And if anyone's telling you that there is one way to do this, I don't agree with them.
I mean,
So, yeah, perfectly valid path.
it might work. It might even work. So
Yeah,
give it a shot.
yeah, definitely worth it. Right. So, moving on, Kanchan says, if it's a new community, really unsure what to expect. And you worked in customer services before. Yeah, no, that's great. Um, yeah, I think anyone I mean, I don't know. I have such immense um, respect for customer service folks that you know they get all the angry customers, but they have to deal with them in such a calm way. So it's really really good.
I swear, if I were not in consulting or if I hadn't done my engineering, I would be into the hospitality industry. Not doing this because I when I relate with people, it's a different feeling for me. It's something that makes me happy. So I agree there.
On the spot coaching for you, Akshansh. If you want to do it, you do it. You don't say that had I not, because ultimately your engineering degree or your stint in consulting, of course, maybe you love them and that's why you continue doing them. But just because you did an engineering degree and you did something in your past doesn't mean you carry that on for the next 40 years of your life, because that's sunk cost. You can't
Right.
recover it. But whatever is ahead of you, sorry, that's a unwarranted piece of advice. But yeah,
No, I
I
appreciate it. And in fact, consulting has this element of people. There's a reason I love consulting because it I spoke to like n number of individuals across the globe. So that's definitely there. There's a very big people flavor there as well.
that is true. And I did not mention this earlier, but that was coming to me as well, that within consulting, people and ops is quite a people focused role as well. Change
Mhm.
management, very very people focused roles as well. So even within the conventional careers, you can find the not so conventional bits, I guess.
Yeah. There's this
Cool.
question from Hardik. He says, it's very unlikely that opportunities comes to them like in your case. I'm trying to get some experience as a community manager by getting some internship through from different startups, but not able to get it. Is there anything I can do? So I'm going to come back and follow up on this, Hard. Like, what sort of startups are you trying to intern at? Like, what is the role all about? Community manager there at those startups. And I think what Kanchan responded is a really good answer. If there's a startup, there's a community that you relate with, uh, your best bet is to go show them, that you know a lot about that. You can make an impact. There's something that you can add value to rather than just be there and leading it. If the employer or the organization or the startup sees the value, your contribution, and the impact that you can bring, I'm pretty sure they'll figure out a way to get you on board. How do you showcase that? That's going to be through soft conversations on LinkedIn. There is no other way. Uh, you will have to stage a platform for yourself to go tell them that this thing is for you, and have that 5 minute or 2 minute pitch ready to why you think you deserve that and how you can create an impact or contribute to it. So no clear way. Again, like I said, there's no button that you're going to press on. Different job descriptions says community manager intern. Okay, that's interesting. That's good to know for me as well. I'm going to go do some background research on my end as well. But as you are looking up those terms, try and understand what that community is about. Because if you're not going to be able to relate, like I can't do any community manager role for any tech. I could not relate with DevRel and Dev Advocate for a moment. So make sure that you're up and running about that community manager.
I agree. And Hardik, um, we should connect.
Yeah, there you go. Well, your passion kind of hopefully Sudeshna gives you some good guidance.
Yeah. I mean, for all I know, I might not have anything, but yeah, like if an internship is what you're looking for, you might be able to find something.
Bingo. Your
Cool.
ROI from the session, Hardik.
Yeah, there you go. Um, and Nishant
Social
says.
media marketer and community manager. Two different things. I think community manager is about being both the audience and the person who promotes the product, the community creates engagement. Whereas the social media marketer is just about branding that product, irrespective of what the experience is like. So the community manager, I find these two roles very different. And I agree, there could be some corporates confusing them both, the way that they post. So, yeah, but two different things there.
Um, I think I would slightly disagree to that in in my understanding. Like how I would look at a social media manager would be someone who's doing the posting, driving engagement of the, whatever hashtags and SEO and whatnot. But the community element to it is almost outside the realm of the social media manager. It is to do with driving conversations within the comments, and that is the community you are serving. um, could one person do both the roles? Sure. But I think for social media, I would look at someone who's, making those whatever, like Instagram is what's coming up in my head, but it could be LinkedIn or Twitter or whatever else. You're actually coming up with the content and then doing the research on how to get it viral per se. And the community person is more like driving engagement.
I agree.
So it,
I
it
think you
it
summed
it
up
could be
pretty
it
well.
could be perhaps both. And yeah, perhaps some social media marketeers out there are a bit of a community manager leader as well. So
hmm Community manager is basically social media marketer plus added responsibilities of driving that engagement. So
yeah,
the social media marketer could just be like a subset of things. Can
yeah,
I get your LinkedIn? For sure. I think Sudeshna, you could put yours up as well
yeah,
and share mine. I think we're just on time, Sudeshna. I
yeah.
need to jump for another call as well. But if
Sure.
there are any other questions that,
Feel free to
you
hit us
know,
on LinkedIn.
yeah, feel free to hit us on LinkedIn and I'd be happy to have a conversation with individuals. And thank you for this session. Super stuff.
Great. Thank you so much, Akshansh, for hanging out. And thank you to all of you folks. And yeah, we'll see you next week.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you so
Bye.
much.
Thank
Have a
you.
great day ahead. Bye.
Bye.